Welcome to another Indie Dev Showcase video here on the channel. Each week, we recap the many indie games that we play for our Wednesday night streams. Many of them play with press keys, as well as demos that we find. If you'd like to submit a game for a future piece, please get in touch. But we are beginning here with something a little bit odd. This is Sloth Quest. The devs sent this game in, and what we have here is, I guess, the Animal Kingdom equivalent of Getting Over It. You have each button on the keyboard, or multiple buttons, that you have to make use of that will raise or lower different parts of the sloth's arms and legs, grab and release, and yes, it is one of those games, as our very creepy looking sloth has to make it through, I think it was a leopard or jaguar-infested jungles and forests in order to save the day or go on some kind of quest, as the title implies. And yeah, this is a game that's going to be about essentially keyboard twister, as you try and get him to move and go around any which way as you can, as you swing, and hopefully not fall to the ground there. There's also hidden collectibles and enemies that you'll have to dodge, not exactly gracefully, as you are a sloth. And as for some of the games that we've played, this is a what you see is what you get kind of experience. So if Getting Over It was something that you enjoyed playing, well, you have our lovely little sloth friend here. And now we move to another game that was submitted by a developer. This is Dual Pong. And this game was submitted during that kind of like Pong craze we had earlier in 2020, when everyone was trying to build the next unique take off of it. And what we have here, I think, was kind of a prototype for the design. And unfortunately, we have a case of trying to, I guess, remake the wheel in terms of trying to overcomplicate the gameplay. So first we have this entire story that is told through text. There aren't any cutscenes in this game. And then that takes us to the actual Pong gameplay. And the whole kind of twist of this game is that you can control, you have a far greater, I guess, manipulation of the physics based on what buttons you press as the ball connects with the paddle. But it all seemed very complicated, instead of just being like very easy to learn. And we saw games that did a lot with kind of the Pong gameplay. There was the RPG style one, I think it was Hypergalactic Table Tennis, there was Pong Quest, and those felt, I think, far more accessible and approachable than this one. Now again, we played this earlier in 2020, so I don't know if there's been any more in terms of updates or accessibility on onboarding passes to it. But unfortunately, there needs to be, I think, a lot more to get people excited about Pong in today's market. And now we turn to something completely different with Waking. This is, it's described as one part third-person action-adventure game, one part meditative experience. And this is one of those games that I feel is more art piece than actual gameplay. Our story is that we are in a coma, about to die, and we're kind of going through, I guess, a meditative process to kind of leave this life peacefully. The game throws a lot of concepts and a lot of, like, potential design at the player, as you'll have to make decisions about, like, giving up parts of your personality, how you respond to specific moral questions, and supposedly this is supposed to affect kind of how your character behaves in combat. Like, choosing your main emotion may determine how much damage your attack does, what's your recovery time, and it's kind of very obscured in that aspect. And the gameplay that we saw on stream didn't really seem to, like, go anywhere. Combat is about just picking up random objects and flinging at enemies here, and everything just felt very bullet spongy. And I think ultimately with Waking, this feels like one of those games that the art and just kind of the presentation superseded all thoughts or design aspects on the moment-to-moment gameplay. And for me, I didn't find this to be too meditative as an experience. And maybe I'll go back to something that really puts me in a meditative state. Maybe playing something like Hades or Bloodborne once again. But with that said, we're going to take a quick break here and we'll take a look at 3 more games in this video coming right up. And now for a quick shout out to our current Game Wisdom supporters and sponsors. Going forward, all Patreon supporters will get early access to our videos. And if you'd like to continue this discussion on game design, be sure to check out our Discord channel, linked down below. If you're looking for more wisdom about game design, be sure to check out my latest offering of books, 20 Essential Games to Study, aimed for first-time developers and students looking for some inspiration for their upcoming games, and Game Design Deep Dive Platformers if you're interested in anything regarding 2D and 3D platforming design. They're both available in print, digital, and wherever books are being sold. For our next game, we turn to one that I really got into. This is P.a.m.e.l.a. And this is essentially a sliding box puzzle meets action or tactical combat. It's a very strange mix here, but how this works is that our character here moves in a straight line as far as she can go without hitting an object. If she runs into an enemy, she does 1 damage. But if there is space behind the enemy, she'll slash right through them, doing 2. If she ends her movement next to any enemy, they will attack and do damage, taking away your hearts that you saw in the upper left. And your mission is to move through each level, dealing with these enemies, and trying to avoid any damage. The movement, again, is its own unique puzzle, as you can only go to certain areas, as you can see, based on where she lands previously. So if there's a door that's like in the middle of a room, you can't exactly get there unless you hit it from a proper angle. There's also upgrades as well as bonus challenges that you can get through. And I really like the aesthetic as well. It's very bright and it really does like stick out for this kind of game. And the design, I think, is unique enough that it does kind of get away from traditional box sliding based puzzles, because that isn't the entirety of this core gameplay loop. But you do get additional powers and upgrades I think does help. And man, like, this is one of those titles that it really surprised me with the kind of game that we have here. And if you like what you're seeing, definitely give this one a check, because there really isn't anything else like it on the market. Speaking about anything else like it on the market, our next game is Haxity. This is an early access deck building roguelike that we got a press key for, and this was played a few months ago, so it may not represent the current version of the game. But what we have here is an attempt at kind of breaking and rebuilding the wheel when it comes to this kind of design, and it's definitely a tricky one to talk about. So, what we play here is kind of a rock, paper, scissors take on the deck building roguelike. How this works is that you have cards that are broken down into 3 distinct classes. Each class will defeat another class, so I think it's like attack, skill, spell. I don't remember things 100% off the top of my head. But you play your 3 cards blind, and then the opponent plays their 3 cards blind. And then you have a chance to use energy to quote-unquote hack the field. This can raise the value of certain cards, this can change cards, force the enemy to swap, and so on and so forth. So as you can see right here, after that battle prediction, I am winning one of the 3 rounds, or one of the 3 turns for this round. So I can spend my energy in order to try and change things for the better. Now, if both players play the same kind of card, then the one that has the higher value, I believe, triggers. So as you saw right there, I hacked, then the enemy hacked. And it's essentially a case where everybody goes through their own energy pools until both players pass, and then the turn plays out as normal. And you summon rats like that. And The game is built on a lot in terms of deck synergies. Each character or quote-unquote class has different things that they specialize in. My little plague guy here does stuff with poison and debuffs that will affect the person over time. But the problem with this game is that it can feel very unfair when you're trying to get things to work. So you can have a case where, you know, you completely win, you choose every card right, you then pass, and then the enemy just completely hacks everything, and you're done, like the entire round is over. As you play through the game, you'll be able to go on like little mini quests and unlock new cards, and it has that very much that Slay the Spire. Your deck grows progressively, bigger and different the longer that you play. But it feels like it's trying to overcomplicate the simplistic design, or the easy again to design, of Slay the Spire or Monster Train. And this is a tough one to recommend. Again, I didn't play this one, or we haven't played this one since like opening week, and I know the developer has been working on it. And if you are somebody who's playing this game now, let me know what you think in the comments below, and if there has been any improvements or changes. But if you are looking for a more involved and more complicated deck building roguelike, then Haxity could work for you. But if the complexity is going to be a turnoff, then I would unfortunately pass on this one. For our last game of this video, this is Pamela. And I guess this is one of those titles that feels like it's trying to do everything. And I don't know if it truly did work. So for this one, this is essentially, I think, kind of like if BioShock meets The Surge, in terms of we're on a desert island and everybody is all cyber enhanced and messed up. We have been awoken by the island's AI in order to try and figure out what is going on, and again, named Pamela. So one of the things I do like about the game that I thought was very good is that it does feature an entirely diegetic UI. Your arm updates with all kinds of information, you can click through things, you can scan for items, etc., etc. But the first thing that you'll find is that the UI is very cumbersome. It's very hard to do anything quickly, and you're going to have to kind of mess around with it to just figure out what it is that you're doing with it. Now, the game, from the store page and descriptions, bills itself as kind of being this like grand mystery. You're going to explore this entire island, you're doing all kinds of different systems and upgrades and etc. But when we play this on stream, we found a very wide and kind of very barren world to explore. And yes, this is one of those games you're going to be picking up everything that you can find from trash cans. And I do think there is potential with this game, but we kind of lost interest in it very early, especially when we got to the game's combat. And like I said, this game feels like something that it's trying to do way too much with this kind of design. And as you can see me just getting this a very awkward fist fight with the zombie lady. And I'm not sure if Pamela is a flawed gem or just flawed. And we really kind of just like completely fell out of interest with this game long before we could see what it does. And this is another one of those titles I'm curious for people who did play this longer. Does it get more interesting than this? Or is it just a case of complicated systems just to try and seem deep? As I'm furiously trying to punch a robot here. But with all that said, we're going to wrap up this week's Indie Spotlight video here. I'd like to thank developers who submitted games. You'll find links to all the titles in the description down below. And if you'd like me to tackle your game in the future, please don't hesitate to get in touch. We do these streams once again every Wednesday night, and come back for daily discussions on game design here, and on game wisdom, where is the art and science of games. Until next time, take care. Thanks for watching the video. If you enjoyed things, be sure to do all the liking and subscribing that the kids are doing these days. Check out our Discord channel link down below where we hang out and chat game design, and come back later tonight for our regular streamings. But that's it, and tune in for more great content here and on Game Wisdom, where we examine the art and science of games.